As we welcome everyone to the extraordinary council meeting. Begin with the prayer. God of our fathers, in whom we trust and by whose guidance and grace this nation was born.
E tua atua kahu arua, nā tua mātua ponoa, nā tua aroha e whanau a mai ia Aotearoa.
Bless these council of Upper Hutt and give all things needed for their faithful discharge of their responsibilities.
Whakapainga mai mātou ko nā mai whakatiki o mai ki mātou mā mere mai, ki aki ai tau mātou mahi, nā mahi hei hapi, huki e te hapuri.
Give to each good health and good judgment for the decisions to be made, wisdom beyond our own and a clear understanding so that we may promote thy glory and welfare of all in the city.
Ko mai ki tina ki tine o mōtau, te oranga pai, mā te fo karo pai hoki. Ki whakatau ai te kuna, nā matua tu tuka ea ho tui, mā te tanga, ki atu korea me te oranga a te kora roto e whakatiki.
Through Jesus Christ our Lord, amen.
Ko e hu katoa tu mai, amen.
Okay, thank you. Before we begin, I think it's appropriate for our meeting to think of our colleagues in local government that are in the Hawke's Bay and Poverty Bay who are undergoing again another deluge of water and flooding. They were still trying to rectify from the last attack, so think of them as they work through that. The last thing I'll be thinking of is long-term plans. There'll be immediate issues. And if we have any, we have apologies from Councillor Kerry and we have Councillor Griffiths on Zoom.
He's not online just yet.
So he's coming. So we'll make note. Councillor happy to move the apology. Councillor Kerry, second by Councillor Wheeler. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, no, it can carry. If there's any changes to your declaration of interest, please let your governance know. Public forum, we did have one who would speak, but they have since pulled out. And first, at item 9, we have confirmation of the council meeting at the back of your thing. We'll take that first. That is confirmation of the council meeting, which was on 5th of June. Yep. Any items to be discussed? So I'm happy to move. We have a seconder. Councillor Opera.
Councillor Holness.
Holdness, did I say? All those in favour say aye. The contrary, no.
Oh, sorry, Your Worship. I believe I was in attendance to that meeting. It says I was not in attendance.
Apologies, you're already cancelled. Okay, well, subject to that, we'll check that. All right. All those in favour say aye. Contrary, no. It's been carried. Okay. We now move to item 4, which is the adoption of the Development and Financial Contributions Policy 2024. Recommendations there. A through D. Any items to be discussed? Councillor Wales.
Your Worship, I have a problem with this particular paper and in particular C, delegated authority to administer the Development and Financial Contributions Policy 2024 as set out in the finance, those that have got their papers. My rationale that I have an issue with this is on page 7. When you look at the statutory delegations that are in that my concern is that already we have asked for the manual of delegations to come to us, and it came to us in February of this year. We said that we wanted it to go back to be reworked because we weren't happy with the changes that were put in that delegation. There was an opportunity for that delegation, manual of delegations, to come to us last week because we had a number of items in there that would have gone to the Risk and Insurance Committee and it didn't. And it would have probably been a more appropriate time to actually bring these delegations to that, to allude to us, so that we could have had a more robust conversation around it. My issue is that already I understand that we are out of compliance as it stands, the way it is. We were told that the number of the things under our manual of delegations is out of compliance. I don't see why we cannot continue to do this. I would rather approve any changes to the manual of delegations in totality. I find that when you do things in isolation, unintended consequences sometimes come and bite you. And I don't want that to happen with regard to this. There are some particular issues in here that does concern me about it. One is on page 8. And the one in particular is section 207A, 207F under the Local Government Act, power to make a decision on requests for development agreements and enter into development agreements with a total value of up to $1 million. I can see with the growth pattern that we've got that is suggested in our projections of the city and possibly some of the developments that might come and sit before us will exceed that $1 million. And I want to know where would that decision made. I'm also very aware that when you look at some of these other decisions that are made, particularly in papers that do come to us where we're out of scope when we don't do our resource consent in the 20 days, that we go over, we're never reported as to how much money that costs us as a council, because I know that once you go over the 20 days, the developer is entitled up to 50% for every day that it is incurred. And yet we don't ever get that financial overlook. And I think from a governance point of view, I don't want to dive into operations, but I think from good governance, I need to have an overview of what the costings of some of those things are. So I'm very nervous about changing any of these delegations, and to be told it's what other councils do. I'm happy with what other councils do because I'm not responsible to my community for what other councils do. I am responsible for what we do to our community in this. So I will not be accepting that part of the recommendation.
So what part are you talking about? 20,
I'm talking about the recommendations where it's A, B, C, and D. I would like them to be done separately because I'm not accepting C.
Any further comments? Councillor Bentley?
Question arises from that, Your Worship. What happens if we pass all of them without C? Could it be operative, the policy? Not to the directly, or to legal.
Yeah, I can speak that. I mean, the current delegations will carry on.
Yeah.
So the chief executive's got a non-specific general delegation at the moment to do this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
At the moment, it's being managed further down the chain a little bit from there. So we'd have to bring it back up for the day of operations to comply with that current delegation.
Any further comments? Okay, then we're happy to take the recommendations separately. 2A, receive the report. I'm happy to move that. We have a seconder, Councillor Swales. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
No. 2B, adopt the development financial contributions policy of 2024. We have a mover, moved by Councillor Carson, seconded by Councillor Bentley. All those in favour say aye. Contrary, no. Been carried. Item C, delegate the authority of Minister of Development and Financial Contributions Policy 2024 as set out in the financial and resourcing section on this report. Happy to move it. We have a seconder. Councillor Bentley. All those in favour say aye. Aye.
Aye.
To the contrary, no.
No.
Show of hands. Those in favour? Those against?
Can we just check that again? Because I want to check.
All those in favour, raise their right hand. It's 3 against. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Lost.
Councillor Griffiths.
It's Councillor Griffiths.
Sorry, here I was just typing an answer.
Okay.
Or the no.
No. Okay. Item D, authorise officers to correct any minor graphical, editorial, or formatting errors. Happy to move. Seconded by Councillor Newell. All those in favour say aye. To the contrary, no. It's been carried. We now move to item 5, which is the adoption of schedule of fees and charges 2024-25. And the recommendations there are clear that received the report, adopted the revenue and financing policy, recommend the introduction of the commercial forestry differential category to be deferred till the 1st of July, and adopt the revenue and financing policy which is appended, and authorise office to correct any minor changes. No,
We're not on the schedule of these.
No, we're on the schedule of fees, your worship, page 46.
Well, I'm on the revenue and financing. But we'll do that first and we can come back. We'll do that first and we come back. All right? Okay? That's just on that, so yeah, we'll do item 5 and then come back to 4, all right?
Page 46, item 5.
99. Just,
Hang on, we're doing.
we'll do the adoption of revenue and financing, sorry.
No, you
Come
go.
back. Yeah, it is 99. Just on recommendation B, recommending the introduction of commercial forest, that'll be a further rate looking at differentials across. Can we get some clarification on that?
Through your worship. There's an operational issue with implementing it 1 July this year.
Yeah.
And as previously discussed at deliberations, it is the intention to develop and consult on a rates policy.
Right.
Upper Hutt has not had one. It is very common to have one. We intend to do that later this year. We need to that will incorporate many new aspects to think about.
Thank you. Clarify that. Councillor Carson.
Thank you. In the actual revenue and financing policy, which is the attachment, on page 20, under the depreciation funding over time, there's in the last sentence, it says, starts off, this approach is reviewable and blah, blah, blah. Can the director please explain what is meant by reviewable, please?
Through your worship, what is meant by that is we have a policy to fully fund depreciation. That if council adopts that policy, it was in the assumptions, financial assumptions as part of building the long-term budget and plan. It is also part of the financial strategy that's been put forward. Like any policy, it needs to be reviewed as circumstances change. You perhaps will say, you will have noted that we have 3 years back in our audit report when we come to that. One of them is on revaluation, and it is to review the depreciation policy. 1 is good practice, but 2 gives council options for the future.
Councillor Carson.
Okay, with that, perhaps with that sentence needs to be expanded to explain what we mean by reviewable, because taken by itself, I asked the question and it's vague in what it means. And I'm concerned that the actual depreciation funding policy itself will be reviewed in the future, although councillors have the right to do so. But if we're going to say that, then perhaps include a footnote as to what you mean by reviewable, please, because I think it stands in a state and it's not self-explanatory.
For your worship, subject to audit, I'm happy to add a footnote that adds no new information other than it is council policy to review.
Councillor Bentley.
Yeah, thank you. Just on that second recommendation about this being deferred to 1 July, does that mean that it's locked in for 1 July next year, or then it would be done as part of next year's annual plan and looked at in then?
For your worship, at the moment it is locked in, but as has been discussed at this council, we are looking to develop a rates policy and that will incorporate all differentials, all types of rating units and all options that we might think about and consider for the future for the city.
So we have the 4 recommendations there, 2A through D. I'm happy to move.
Second.
Seconded by Deputy Mayor Swales. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
The contrary, no. It's been carried. Okay, apologies. We now move back to item 5 on 46, which is the adoption of schedule of fees and charges 2024-25. Have the recommendations there to A through F. Councillor Swales.
I just have a question. When we look at the lighting fields for number 1 and number 2, I was just wondering why we aren't doing it on their turf. It didn't give an explanation of why we're not charging. There's a no charge when I look at the fees and charges. And yet when I think that, you know, the lights that are going on the other number 1 and number 2, we're doing that, but we're not, it doesn't appear that we're charging for any lights that go on the turf. The other question that I'd like to put in here is that in the deliberations and some of the conversations that we had around Aotearoa, I'd just like it recorded somewhere, like we have with regard to forestry, that we will be looking at whether we align our fees and charges at Aotearoa with our partners at Hutt City. And I don't see that anywhere, but it was one of the conversations and recommendations that came up.
So you're talking about the lights at the artificial turf?
Yes.
Through you, which I can certainly answer that. The artificial turf is managed by the Maidstone Park Trust, and the costs for the hireage of the artificial turf by users includes the use of the lights. Unlike the fees that are being talked about.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have the recommendations there, 2A through F.
Your worship, I was just going to address the second part of the
Thank
question.
you.
We can look at alignment and other issues and fees and charges next year.
Thank you.
Jumped out of your chair, I wondered where you were going. So, again, recommendation, do we have a mover? Deputy Mayor Swales, seconded by Councillor Carson. All those in favour say aye. The contrary, no. It's been carried. We now go to the adoption of the long-term plan, 2024-23. The orders are here, are they? Online? Oh, welcome. And I refer to the auditors. Thank you. It's been a busy time for everyone, and start with Director Lisa, and then I'll refer to our auditors. Thank you.
Through you, Richard, just an update to the documents in the agenda. The final audit report is available now, as is included in attachment 3, to which the auditors will speak shortly. And we've also our table document with 4 additional changes to the document at attachment 3, which has come about through final checks in the last 24 hours.
Thank you. Now, I'll refer to John, comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, we've completed our work and are ready to issue an opinion after Council approves the plan. It has been a very busy process, and we are grateful for the support of Council staff and Council for helping us to complete our work and the cooperation we've received. In terms of the report, there's a couple of things that I will note. First one is that we've issued an unqualified opinion. What that opinion includes is that we believe that the plan provides a reasonable basis for the long-term and integrated decision-making and coordination of Council's resources, and for accountability to the of the Council to the community. Also included in the opinion is that the information and assumptions underlying the forecast information in the plan are reasonable. And lastly, that the disclosures are a complete and accurate list in terms of the financial reporting and prudence regulations. What is not included in the opinion is that we don't provide any assurance that the plan will actually be achieved. This is because circumstances and events don't always occur as expected, and variations could well be material. And also, we don't guarantee the accuracy of the information in the plan. Later in the report, we also cover what the responsibilities of Council and the auditor are. And probably the main one to note there is that Council is responsible for meeting all legal requirements of its procedures, decisions, consultation and disclosures, and other actions relating to the preparation of the plan. As I said, the opinion is unqualified, but we have included 3 emphasis of matter paragraphs without modifying our opinion. 2 of these are similar to what we had included in the consultation document opinion. The first one deals with the uncertainty and risks over planned renewals for water services assets. And what this emphasis of matter draws attention of readers to is that council has not been able to afford the total water services investment that was recommended by Wellington Water, and that the investment that's been included in years 1 to 10 of the annual plan has been capped to a level at what council considers is affordable. The second part of that emphasis of matter is that the renewals in the plan are based on the asset information in terms of its life cycle and the age of those assets. So there's always an uncertainty and risk when that approach is used alone and without really good condition information as to, the level of renewals may be different in terms of what has been forecasted. You may need to spend more or there may be less. In terms of the second emphasis of matter, this is around the delivery of the capital program. So again, we're drawing readers' attention to the fact that council is proposing a significantly increased capital program to previous plans. And while council has noted a number of initiatives, there remains a high level of uncertainty and risk that council will be able to deliver on the program proposed. And highlighting the risks of that is that there could be impacts to level of service and greater costs if some of these projects are deferred. The third emphasis of meta paragraph is a new one from the CD, and this deals with the uncertainty that council has disclosed in that it has sought an independent valuation of its water assets that will be used for the financial statements for the year ended June 2024. The valuer's work is in progress, and councils are only expecting to receive the draft report from the valuer subsequent to the adoption of these prospective annual financial statements. Council has included an assumption that of high risk, of high uncertainty, that the valuation figures may be different to what is the assumption that has been applied in the long-term plan, and that any if there's a significant change in that valuation, then that would flow through to the asset values and depreciation, etc., and ultimately as a consequence to rates. So again, we're just highlighting to readers that process is in progress and won't be finalised until after this report. I don't know if there's any questions. That's probably the old owl note in terms of our report.
Thank you. Any questions to the auditors? No? Thank you very much, and thank you for it's been hard work for everyone, but again, thank you very much for your effort. I think your office is under the pump a bit, but well done.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, we now move to the recommendations for the adoption of the long-term plan 2024-23. We have 2A through F. Councillor Swales.
That's right. I did send a couple of questions through to officers, and they came back, and I've got the LTP plan for 2021-2031, and my concern is on the LTP that we've been submitted 2024-2034. If you go to page 34, I find it really confusing, and I know that you've broken down CapEx and OpEx amongst each of the different entities like transport, community services, water and things like that. But I found it really, really helpful in the 21-2031 is that when you look at pages 22 and 23, you had all the major projects on one hand side, and then you had where the money is going on the other side, which is page 23. What we've got in the new document on page 34 is we've got both of them amalgamated together, and I think that for any young person who wants to read it, the way it was set out in 21-22, even for an elected person, was really, really easy to see. And all I'm asking is it able to have the pie graph that you've got there split into two under operating and CapEx, rather than having it, you've got a Word document here which says major projects in the pipeline, and then you've got where the money is going, which is your OpEx. All I'm saying is that in this document, you've got both together And it makes it just a little bit confusing if anyone wants to know where the money is going on renewals or OPEX and where the money is going on CapEx and whether we could do that. It's my first question, Your Worship.
Really, Your Worship. Subject to order, I don't want to change anything that I've audited, but this is in the overview section.
Yeah.
And I think what you're seeking is a clarification of information already provided. I'm doing to my much more capable person behind me. But I believe it's doable if that's what council wishes.
Your Worship, it does concern me in that when I go to the transport, there is another question that I would like. And when we talk about percentages, it's really hard to know what your baseline of your percentage is and where you take that percentage from. And in the 21-23, and I totally understand that our road network increases with the developments as they come online, and that your meterage that you might start will pay. But my question is, and what I would like, is that you've just got 4% increase, 4% increase, 4% increase over it. I would like what it was in the 21-22, which gave you a square meterage of where you started and then where you're going to go. And it's not asking you to change, it's just a little bit of clarity for me as an elected person to know this is how many square meters that we are talking about that we have at the moment, right? And we know that that might increase if developers come along and increases our network, but it would still be nice to know 4% of what. And if a footnote could be put in there like it was in the 21-22 under transport, it would just be nice to know. It's a bit like when we talk about the renewals of the water pipes, we say that we need to renew 21 metres a year, but we're only doing 19. We know the difference. I'm just asking that when a member of the community says to me, so how much are you spending on roading and what are the renewals or the road networks that you're doing? Oh, it's 4%. That's actually not telling them anything, and it's not telling me anything. So there are some little changes like that, if we're able to do, I would like it put in there as a footnote that when the reporting comes back to us as councillors, it's actually in a square metre so that we understand how much has been achieved or how much is going to be achieved rather than a percentage.
Again, it's a subject to agreement with water.
Through you, Worship. Yes, the measures are reported in through the annual report. And in that, it should be relatively simple to have the meter report as some additional information alongside the percentage reporting as to whether it's been achieved or not.
I have another one, sorry. When I look at the Whirinaki Wharetonga with regard to how many people come through and I look at the library, Mike, how many people come through? I know this is being audited, but we did talk about the impact of maybe moving the eyesight or things like that and reduced hours. But I just think that when I look at the city services report, which is coming up next month, and I see the previous year and this year to date, which isn't yet a full year, we're in excess of the numbers that are being put in this document. So I'm just wondering what the rationale behind us dropping these numbers. What I would like to do for consistency, when we get our annual survey, it would be good to be able to say we're measuring it against same like for like. Because when you start changing measurements like that, it distorts things. Well, it does for me.
No.
I'm not sure specifically what measures we're talking about. In the library, there was one change in a measure.
Yeah.
Around how many of the community and a percentage of the community. And there was a rationale for that, and that measure was quite misleading, and there was a better way of doing it, which other libraries do. The numbers and the comment on the numbers, both Whirinaki specifically has retained the number of visits that they have and have increased them slightly in the KPIs, but it is certainly below what they have been achieving.
Excuse me, Your Worship. So when I go to page 56 of the new document, I thought the number of physical visits in 12 months to June was exactly the same as what it was and 2021 for 2021. And then when I look at what that is going to city services, it talks about the breakdown of visits to Pinehaven, our library here, and mobile. And the mobile library was the one that was down, but the other two were up. So I was just wondering why we've gone down in our numbers from one sector, you know, why we haven't put those numbers up to compare to what you've done, which is in a 12-month in city services. Because you've gone up from 168 to 175, but it still isn't anywhere near what you've reported in the meeting that's going to happen next week.
Through your worship, the reference number in the long-term plan that's referred to the 108,521.
Yep.
That is from the audited annual report for 22-23.
Yep.
So the numbers reported by the director for this financial year are not yet available for the 22-23 annual report, and so we have to use the 22-23.
Okay.
I get that, your worship, but you know, we're given quarterly, half yearly and 3 quarterly reports. And I can't see why we can't see from a tracking or a projection of that, of where we would land, which is more realistic than what we've got in this paper.
Any further comments? So we then have the adoption of the long-term plan. Councillor Carson.
Thank you, your worship. Just to, somewhere in amongst of all these documents on Stella, I noticed there were draft responses back to the submitters somewhere. But in the bit that talks about the rates, you're using a different figure than what we're going to approve. So could you just make sure, please, that the figures for the rate increases for the first 3 years are and the responses back to the submitters are correct figures, please.
Okay. We now have the recommendation before you, 2A through F. Happy to move. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Carson. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, no. It's been carried. Well done, team. And we now move to the confirmation, setting of the annual rates and uniform annual charges 2024-25. We have all the up-to-date information figures now. Yep. It's on Stella. Yeah, it's all there. And the recommendations there is that we receive the reports entitled Setting of the Annual Rates and Uniform Annual Charges 2024-25. And pursuant to sections 23, 24 and 57, the Local Government Act resolved to set the rates, due dates and penalties. The recommendation there, I'm happy to move. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Bentley. All those in favour say aye. Contrary, no. It's been carried. Okay. Can I just say, thank you. Can I just also say before we move to public security, thank the staff, because it's been, and the auditors, because I know that over the last week, you know, the weekend and nights, they've been working really hard to get here. And so it's been a long few weeks, but on behalf of the council, thanks very much for getting us here, because it was important. That's why a couple of times the date been changed. It was a matter of working through with whenever, and it's a team that took it with us in with the orders. So again, from the staff, Jeff, can you pass on to the staff? Thanks very much for their long weekend. I'll be looking for hopefully a enjoyable 3 days this weekend. So thanks very much for that. Thank you. And we now move to public excluded. Happy to move. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Newell. All those in favour say aye. Contrary, no. It's been carried.